In this video, we're going to learn about representing groups in JavaScript. So what I have on screen at the moment are four different strings. The first one is meant to represent one person. It's me, my first name and my last name, although I've gone for the surname, first name format, which you sometimes see. The second string is representing three different people, and it's trying to capture this idea of a list. So I've got Joe, then I've got Ali, then I've got Bex. And if you were just writing out a list in like a word processor, that's how you might do that. And then my third string I've got Harry and mine is two separate people. Again, that's kind of like a list, very short list. Then I want you to pause the video and think, well, what's ambiguous in this fourth string? Lee, Harper. So remember, pause, have a think. And you might want to compare the first string and the third string. So the ambiguity comes from the fact that sometimes names can be represented in surname, first name. Where Lee, Harper, is this meant to be one person, Harper Lee, who's been written surname, first name, or is this a list of first names like Joe, Ali, Bex, where actually this is Lee as one person and Harper as the second person? It's ambiguous, it's unclear, and we want to try and represent these lists of people in a way which is unambiguous, so that this couldn't possibly, if it's meant to be a list of two different people, we want to represent it in a way where it's much harder to confuse it with that surname, first name structure in a single string. The way we're going to do that is with arrays. Arrays are declared with square brackets. And inside them, you can put things like numbers or strings. So for example, here is a group of the first few even numbers, 2, 4, 6, and 8. And you'll see there that I'm getting that feedback that it's being recognized by JavaScript that there are 4 things inside this group. There's a single group denoted by the square brackets. We call that the array. And it has 4 things inside. It's got 4 members, or in particular, we call them elements. And I can also do it with strings. So I had Joe, Ali, and Bex. And we can see I have an array which is being recognized as having 3 elements. So every member, or every element of an array must be something recognized by JavaScript. So JavaScript, we saw in our first video, it recognizes numbers 2, 4, 6, 8. And it can recognize text as a string, Joe, Ali, Bex. And you have commas separating all these different values in the array. And this means that if I want to represent 2 different people, Lee and Harper, this is representing the fact it's a group of 2 things, Lee and Harper. And by contrast then, this, by implication, is not a group. Because if it were a group, I would have used an array to capture that essence of being a group with 2 things. So by implication, this is more clearly than surname, first name, Harper Lee, the author. And so we can see that if I perhaps use an array like this, where the first element is that string, and that represents me. That's my name in surname, first name format, and Lee Harper. And you see that there, this array is recognized as having 2 elements. The first string, Richard, and the second string, Lee Harper. And that's as opposed to an array which might have 4 elements, like Anna, Bex, Charlie, and Dan. So even though this array here, it actually had 3 commas, 1, 2, 3. This array also has 3 commas, 1, 2, 3. This comma here is inside this string, so it's part of that single entity. So it's part of the string representing me. There's only 1 comma which is separating strings. This one again is part of that second string. And down here, this example, these commas are all separating with different strings. So that tells us that there are 4 different things, 4 different elements, 4 people. This array, even though it has the same number of commas, because some of them are inside the strings, we can tell that those are actually meant to be a single, more complex entity, surname, first name, and there's only two different people being represented in that array. So now's a great time to check your own learning, pause the video, and try the following 3 tasks on the screen. So pause, have a go. Now you've had a go through those. So we had 4 seasons. So I have spring, summer, autumn, and winter. That's the first task. The second was the first 5 odd numbers. So that's going to be 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. So numbers, remember, are part of the basic JavaScript vocabulary. We don't need to represent them as text. And the third was Harry, Ron, and Hermione, but as surname, first name. So that's Potter, Harry. This comma here, outside that string, that leads to Ron, Weasley, Ron, Ronald, I'll go for. And then Granger, Hermione. So hopefully you got something like those 3 solutions there. But here are some different mistakes that I've seen in this sort of task before. And I want you to pause the video, see if you can figure out what's the mistake with each of these. So that's the input, and here, that feedback on the right is the error. This is valuable because part of working as a developer is working with other people's code, which might have errors in. So if you can figure out the mistakes other people have had, that's actually genuinely valuable. So if we go through the first one, the feedback, spring is not defined. If you look at this array, it's got spring in. So for spring, I think we're representing text here, but text, remember, we have to use strings because numbers are part of JavaScript's basic vocabulary, but words we have to represent with strings in order for JavaScript to accept. So to show that here, spring, summer, autumn, winter. Get an error. These should all individually be strings like I had up here in this example. So that's the first. What about the second here? Uncaught syntax error. So syntax error means that we've not followed some of the rules required to write something in a legitimate JavaScript way. So what are those rules? Well, this is an array. It looks like it's got strings in, so they need to be strings inside, and the different elements of our array need to be separated with commas. So we've got string, comma, string, comma, string. Oh, but there's no comma here separating autumn and winter. So if we look here, and I try and send that through, I get that error, but if I put that comma back in, it works. So remember, you must separate your elements in your array with commas. Looking at this third mistake, here, this one's, again, you've got to look carefully. There's a comma, but the comma's inside that string. That's one of the mistakes. So let's fix that. So we're given this line of input here as the example which someone else has written. Let's move this comma outside there. But I can see kind of the code looks a bit weird, and that's a kind of clue that something's not right. And the other thing that's not right is actually this string went wrong, where it was open for double, closed for single. So all the rules which we've learned so far still apply. So strings, you still have to declare consistently open with the same thing that you end them with. And that actually covers off the fourth one as well, where invalid or unexpected token, that came from the fact that this attempted string didn't begin and close the same one. Although there's actually another mistake I'm seeing as I'm looking at it. This is missing a closing right square bracket. So arrays, if we open it here with a left square bracket, we need to close it as well. So now here's how you can embed this learning. You can look at these tasks here by yourself. In this video, we've been looking at representing groups in JavaScript. Inside those arrays, those groups, we've been putting numbers and strings. Numbers are numbers, strings to represent text, which might be names, could be sentences. In the next video, we're going to look at representing a third type of data, in addition to strings and numbers, data which is a bit more complicated. And it's called a JavaScript object.